Hi everyone, what's up? This is Darren from Fast Track Property, and today I'm just excited to speak to you because something happened to me a couple of weeks back when I had an inquiry through my Fast Track Property application and actually met this family, and what they actually showed me was kind of gave me a bit of shock, alright, and I felt it's something that is very real in Singapore and to many families, and maybe perhaps you're not even aware of it, and I felt that it's something that all of you should know, alright, and should be aware of, so you're able to do a little bit more planning on your own, right? So what is this document all about? Before I go into it, I just want to speak a little bit about what is CPF, right? So I personally I love the CPF platform because it gives me a steady interest every single year. It kind of a forced savings for all of us, right? So without a CPF platform, would you agree with me that many of us today would be homeless and would rather have money to actually purchase for our medical needs, right? So this is kind of forced us so that all of us in Singapore, we are the only country in the world who have the highest number of ownership of housing, correct? But yet at the same time, I also realized that CPF has kind of cost us, it's kind of a curse, I personally felt, where all of us fall into it easily and want to use it and dip our fingers into it to use it every single month without understanding the dangers of it and how it really works either for us or against us. Okay, so I wanted to just introduce a little bit about what it was all about. You remember in my past videos I was sharing with you about the changes back in 2018 where they actually have this valuation limit, right? They have this valuation limit whereby where you borrow from the banks, right? You can only borrow 75% instead of 80%. And this same thing goes also for now when they add this together. If you purchase a property, the younger age of the owner, of the purchaser rather, adds up with the balance lease. If it doesn't hit 95, they're then restricted to two things, right? They cannot take the maximum number of loan, and second, they cannot fully utilize their CPF. Now, I tried my best to explain as clearly as possible previously, but I think this has come a bit more urgent today because I realized that more and more families are actually caught in this trap because they weren't very sure when it was actually shown them through the various print medias in Singapore, and they didn't really understand how it really works for them, and until that customer got the letter from CPF board. Alright, so a few things to understand is, number one, what is the valuation limit? Valuation limit actually is the amount the valuation of the property that you purchase. If you purchase anything above the valuation limit, right, that will be your COV or cash portion that you would use. Anything within the valuation limit, you could actually borrow and use your CPF. Okay, so just a quick example. If you bought something for $500,000 and the valuation of this property at $500,000, you could take a loan up to the 75% or 90%, depends on who is your financier, right? And then the rest you can use your CPF. But if it was the reverse, whereby your purchase price is at $550,000 and the valuation of this property is at 500k, the difference of $50,000 must be paid in cash. And this is the same for a private property, alright? Not just for HDB. In private properties, if you were to purchase above the valuation price, you do also pay the COV, alright? So, another two more terms to understand. One is actually your CPF usage, okay? CPF housing usage. So what is the CPF housing usage? CPF housing usage actually predetermines a person, alright, based on the age of the property or balance lease. With his age, what is the total amount you can use from your CPF to pay for your house or that particular house that you're going to look for. Alright, the next thing you look for is actually the CPF housing limit. Alright, so this CPF housing limit, right, will actually be the same as the valuation limit. What is this all about? For every particular house, there is a particular limit that you have. They actually cap for your CPF usage. Thereupon, what this means is that if you have used at this limit, anything above will have to be paid in cash. Okay, say for example, if you have already purchased a property for 500k and perhaps 15 years on, whatever that you're using your CPF, you and your partner add together has already hit $500,000, your next month's payment will be all in cash. You cannot touch your CPF anymore. Alright, let me just show you a little an example over here so you can see. First thing I want to show you is actually that letter that my customer received. And why I was so shocked, because they only stayed in the property for 12 years and they received this letter from CPF stating that as of this year, July, they've already hit their valuation limit, and thereafter they have to pay everything in cash. Alright, so why is it I've been always stressing so much in the past for all of us to be disciplined and set aside some money to actually pay in cash? Because basically all of us are humans, right? And we are all nature creatures of habits, okay? So you can imagine for the past 12 years, you have never paid a single cent using cash for your housing. What are the chances that when this comes, right, you're able to just turn around and just transfer immediately and pay in cash thereafter? It's going to be a strain because you don't even have the habit of doing that, okay? So, right, let's move on. So here, as you can see, this is addressed to my customer from the CPF board, right? This in big black white letters is telling you that you're already reaching the valuation limit of a property. On the right hand side, it tells you how much more CPF you can use before you hit the valuation limit. Alright, what was the valuation limit of property? Here it reads as $278,000. Alright, what's the total CPF already used for the property, and when will this limit be reached? Right, this will reach in July 2020. So one thing to be clear at the bottom with all the footnotes actually tells you that the amount that they allow you to use in your valuation, in your CPF, right, actually does not include stamp duty costs and legal fees. Alright, and even your upgrading fees. Is the total amount adds up paying towards the principal and in the interest of the property instead. Okay, so in the main page here, you will see that they've already used in total 272,620 from the CPF, and it will reach 278 by July 2020. And it tells you that in the event, right, you have set aside that basic retirement sum. Alright, so the basic retirement sum will be, if you're not 55 yet, then you take the particular year, whoever turns 55, what is that basic retirement sum? As of this year, 2020 is 180k, right? So half of that will actually give you 90,800. So sorry, 90,500, right? So what happens on this side is that if only you have fulfilled that basic retirement sum, which is your RA account plus your OA account, if you set this sum apart, then they allow you to use up to 120% of your valuation limit. Alright, if you haven't set aside, it's only at 100%. So just take note about that if you are fully reliant on CPF to finance for your property. Okay, right? So moving on, here further down, you can actually see that what is the amount remaining in the OA, and here, as you can read at the top part here, it tells you this is a 90,500 in 2020. Okay, and if you do that, you can continue paying. If not, then they actually do tell you that it is possible. Alternatively, you could use cash instead of your CPF, right? So to me, I just didn't really like this. Why? Because I just realized personally that when I meet up with the CPF of the HDB officers, they're doing their jobs, but no one really goes deeply into the CPF to advise customers. Where there are a lot of DIYs right now, right? And they just leave it to you to do your research on your own, and there is not much clarity on the dangers of using too much of a CPF, and they're not prepared. Okay, so this is some of the issues that I think is something that you should be thinking about. Okay, so how do you now plan this for yourself? I'll give you an easy calculator. This can be found on the CPF website, right? And you're able to actually do these two calculations whereby you can calculate your CPF housing limit and your CPF usage limit. And in a while, I explain to you why all these numbers is so important for your planning before you buy your first house, alright, or your second house, and how you're going to finance it, and the most importantly, how are you going to exit, alright? So a lot of us, we're thinking that we're going to buy a property as long as it's spacious, it's convenient, I'll buy it without any thoughts about the balance lease. And the same goes for a private property, because it is the same principle. If you buy a private property, for example, you buy a property at Bayshore Park, for example, where the balance lease now is below 60 years, it is the same danger that you're going to face when you resell. And in a while, I explain to you why this is so. Okay, so right, back to my screen. Let me just first show you the CPF housing limit. Alright, so for the CPF housing limit, you can just go on up to the calculators under the CPF board, okay? And here I just show you an example. If you, for example, you buy a HDB flat with a bank loan, it doesn't really matter under this step, it's a bank loan or a HDB loan, it comes out with the same results, okay? And for example, you will purchase this for $500,000, all right? Here the purchase price is the same at $500,000. Okay, and what is the total CPF used by all owners today? For this calculation, do take in mind that we are already calculating based on you have already hit the minimum of 95 years. With the younger buyer add up with the balance lease, it hits 95. Okay, so the total amount you have used, for example, for this property with all your grants and so on, they have used maybe $200,000. All right. And the monthly payment from the CPF is about 1361 estimated. Okay, and when you calculate here, what you will get is that it tells you what is the value of the property at the purchase, and therefore this will become the valuation limit, right? 500k. It also goes on to tell you that if every month you use 106,316 for this property, the amount that is going to be used up will be 18 years 4 months, and thereafter it tells you you can push it up to 600k if you have set aside your basic retirement sum in your CPF accounts. Alright, okay, so this tells you that if you buy a property, you took on this bank loan for 25 years, you will be bear in mind that in your later years, the balance 6 years or 6 to 7 years perhaps, it has all be in cash. Total 1,361 must be in cash. And are you ready for that, right? At the older time, you ask yourself, is that the type of cash of risk that you want to take, or should you actually do that today? Right? So now this is just tells you what is the CPF housing limit for a particular house. What I'm going to show you now is that what does happen if, for example, you purchase a property that is at present perhaps balanced with 65 years or 64 years, and you intend to sell this property at a time that is balanced 59 years, and what is this going to mean for you in terms of the pool of buyers that are going to think of even buying your house. So this example I will show you is that balanced 59 years and you're looking to target a person of a younger purchaser which is 28 years old. So if you take 59 plus 28 for the younger buyer, you arrive to only 87, right? So you realize that 87 means they're not going to get the full loan. And you take, for example, that they have enough CPF to cover the shortfall, for example, and now they're going to now work on the CPF usage itself. Alright, so now I'm going to show you right now what is the CPF usage calculator. So this is a CPF usage calculator. So over here, right, you go into the calculator, it tells you what is your housing usage calculator. You go into, for example, a HDB property, alright, and you're buying a resale flat, and for example you're taking up a bank loan. Okay, so here goes on now to tell you you have to now calculate when was the purchase date. So let's put on purchase date as today, okay, 25th of March. Then what is the lease date? So for example, we are looking at a property which is balanced with 59, right? So you can take 2020 minus 40. So this property would then be, let's say maybe 7th of January, and we change this to year 1980. Alright, so 16th January 1980. What is the lease duration? Over here you key in the full lease, right? It's 99. So now they do know that it is balanced with 59 years. And what is the purchase price of this property? Let's say, for example, the same price at $500,000, right? And the value would be the same. So details of owner, number one. Right now we are looking at someone who is 28 years old, right? So 28 years old, they are born perhaps in 1992. So we look up to 1992. Right, and January 15, for example. So we just calculate on one person first, all right, and we go next. So you realize that now this is how worrying it is. Instead of someone who is able to use the full amount of 500k for the valuation limit, this person could only use 415,000 in their CPF to finance this property. Alright, so basically what does this really mean for you? What it means basically is that earlier you saw that you can actually have about 18 over years for the full amount of 500k, right? But now they can only use 415k, meaning to say that it will not be 18 years for them, it will be much faster, perhaps in the 10 year or the 12 years before they are being called to use full cash. And it actually happens for the entire household. Okay, so this is very dangerous, I felt, if you don't plan correctly, because right now if you follow on the news, CA, which is Council for Estate Agencies, are on the lookout for agents who are actually not aware of this and do not share this in detail with their buyers. Alright, if the buyers DIY, there is no fault on whoever, right? But if you are representing a buyer, and if the agent that you are using is not fully aware on all this and they do not tell you about it, and this is made aware during the completion of the property, the agent do get punished, alright, even with a suspension or a fine. But unfortunately, guess what? This is still a legal purchase. It will still go through, and you and your friends are going to be stuck with this property with this issue, right? This issue, why? Because next time, if you are going to put up this property up for sale, the pool of buyers is going to string really hard, and this is one of the reasons that actually caused a lot of the old properties prices to fall in value over time, because people are not willing to pay so much anymore and they're going for the younger ones. Alright, so even after telling you all these, do keep in mind rather what I said before. Even after planning all this, right, there is still the CPF payments to be repaid and the accrued interest to be repaid, alright, over time when you sell your property. So you could plan this correctly, but still do work into the possible cash financing, because what happens is that you're going to be met with a lot of negative sales. Like I said, this valuation limit doesn't include your stamp duties, it doesn't include your legal fees, but all this amount using your CPF is still compounded with the accrued interest over the years. Alright, so what you're going to have is that at the end of the day, when you do intend to downgrade, to retire, or move on to another property, for example, or even unlocking that cash in that property to move on to a small property, you will realize that there is no cash in hand, and there's a lot of missed opportunities because of this accumulated interest that you have missed out if you have left your CPF in your CPF account. Okay, so I hope this has more clarity for you. I'm doing my best if I can to explain as much as I know over here. If you had a different scenario, or if you had a different case that actually brought to your attention, please do share so everyone can learn. Unfortunately, such events are not publicly, like I said, printed in the press to make people aware, and a lot of families are suffering in silence without knowing what to do, and they just say, never mind, this is just too bad, right? So just be a bit more clear and smarter in doing whatever that you're planning to do. Okay, and in this period of time, I'd like to wish all of you, please do stay healthy, take a lot of vitamin C, and do take care. Alright, speak to you soon.